For this lesson, we're going to talk about the percent of a number. So, in a previous lesson, we said that of translates to multiply and is translates to the equal sign. So, let's say, so for these questions, we're going to translate the problem into an equation and then solve it. So we're going to say what percent of 30 is 15. So let's do P for what percent, and of is multiply, 30 is equal, and then 15, right? So we translated this problem into an equation. Now, to balance the equation, we're going to divide both sides by 30, so that's the opposite of multiply. And so that will get rid of it on this side, so the percent is going to be 15 over 30, which if we simplify that, both sides divide by 15, 1/2, right? But we want the percent. We're still looking for this, and not the fraction. So the fraction is 1/2. The decimal is 0.5. So if you on this one, it's a simple decimal. We know it's 0.5. So we can change this to percent by moving the decimal over 2 places. That would be 50%, but if it wasn't a simple number that we knew the decimal to convert it, we multiply by 100, so 1/2 times 100, right? So 1 times 100 is 100, divided by 2, which is 50. So that is another way to get the percent. So what percent of 30 is 15? It's 50%. So 15 is half of 30, which is true. So now let's do another one. Let's do what? I'm just going to do P. What percent of $4.60 is some change, is 32 or 32 cents, right? Okay, let's translate this. So what percent of is multiplied $4.60 is equals 32 cents. We're just gonna take off the dollar signs, right? So now we're gonna divide both sides by the 460 to balance that. So that will do here. So the percent is 0.32 divided by 4.60. Now, so if you do 4.60 and divide that to 0.32, you can't really do that. You have to move the decimal over. So it's going to be 460 divided by 32, right? Which 4.60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 . 60 So really, we will get a decimal. Okay, so 32. 460 can't go into 32. 460 can't go into 320. But 460 can go into 3200 6 times. Alright, I'm just gonna leave that 0.06. Okay, so that would be what it is divided, but that's a decimal answer, and we need a percent answer. So whenever we convert a decimal to a percent, we move the decimal over again 2 more times, so that would be 6%, right? Or you can do your 0.06 times 100, which gives you 6, and you would just need the percent. So let's do another example. If you put this into a calculator, by the way, it would be 0.069. So you could convert that to, so it would be 0.0695. So really, if you round, it would be 0.07. So rounding, it would be 7%. But I was just doing simpler because these are going into large numbers here. But if you do in the calculator, this is more correct or closer to the right answer. Okay, let's go back and do our next example. So let's do 75% of what number is 800. Oops, that's a question. Okay, so let's translate this into an equation. We have 75% of is multiplied. What number is equal 800? Oh, so here's our equation. Now let's solve. So percent is the same thing as the number over 100. So 75 over 100 times what number is 800. So to get the number by itself, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal on both sides to balance the equation. And this all cancels out, right? So we have n equals 800 times 100, which is 80,000 divided by 75, right? 800 times 100. That gives us a fraction or a decimal. So if you put this into a calculator, it's gonna be 75 times 1066 point, this is rounding, 0.67 is our number. So 75% of this number is 800. We could have also, instead of doing this percent, we could have converted it into a fraction and did 3/4. So it would have been 800 times 4/3, right? 800 times 4, which is 3,200. Divide that by 3, which still gives us the same answer as the top one. But this is more reduced, I guess. You could have did 80,000 and divided that by 25 to get it. Divided these two, simplified it by 25 to get it into this form too. So there are different ways to do these a little bit. Let's do another one. Okay, so let's say 50 is what percent of 30? So let's convert this into equation first, and then let's talk about it. So 50 equals, we're looking for the percent of is multiplied and 30. So here's our equation. The thing is, 50 is more than 30, so our answer is going to be more than 100%, because 100% is going to be 30, right? So let's divide both sides by 30 to balance that equation. So 50 over 30 is going to give us what we need. So if we divide both sides by 10, that's going to give us 5/3 is what we're looking for. So this is a fraction. We want to convert it into a percent. So we multiply by 100. So 500, right? 500 divided by 3. Will give us our percent. Which if we do 3 times 166, that's 498. So 166, 3 times 166. I'm converting this into a mixed number. And then 498, then add the last 2. So 166 and 2/3%, or 166.67%. So that would be there. How do we did 500 divided by 4? That would give us an even 125%. Well, we're dividing by a smaller number that it doesn't evenly divide. So this would be the percent for ours. So let's do a last example. Okay. Let's say 40 is 130% of what number? So let's convert this into an equation. So 40 equals 130% of some number, right? but we need to convert this percent. This time we're going to convert it into a decimal, which we divide by 100, or move it over 2, so 40 equals 1.3 times n. So now let's divide by that for both sides to balance the equation. So 40 divided by that 1.3 is going to give us 30.76, which goes to 769, which goes to 77. So 40 is 130% of 30.77. That's all for this lesson. Let me know if you have any questions.